I'd like to firstly start by paying my respects to the traditional owners of this country, the Darug people, and extend my respects to any elders past and present and any other Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander people here today. I'm a proud Awabakal woman, and whenever I acknowledge country, I always like to also acknowledge and make it clear that Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people are disproportionately affected by domestic, family and sexual violence, and we should always be at the forefront of all conversations. Why did you let him buy you a drink? Why did you stay with him? Why didn't you say no? Why didn't you fight him off? What were you wearing? These are the victim-blaming statements that unfortunately victim survivors hear time and time again. Rape is not just a crime of violence. It is a violation of a human's dignity, autonomy, and humanity. Yet despite the seriousness of these crimes, society often turns their back on victim survivors, often blaming them for what happened. Imagine a society where 1 in 5 people believe that women who report their abuse or rape are often fabricating or exaggerating their claims. Shockingly, this is the reality in Australia, where 1 in 5 people hold these beliefs, the highest among all Western nations surveyed by Ipsos. This pervasive skepticism not only undermines the credibility of survivors, but it also perpetuates a dangerous culture of impunity and silence. These staggering statistics calls for urgent change, demanding that we confront these harmful myths head on and that we use our collective mindsets to start believing and supporting victim survivors. Hello, my name is Sarah Williams. I'm the founder and CEO of What Were You Wearing Australia. We're a not-for-profit organisation fighting to end sexual violence. In such a short period of time, we've become nationally recognised. You may recognise us from our national rallies, which brought 100,000 people across the country together to say no more. Or you may recognise us from our drink spiking campaign, which mandated drink spiking prevention training for all bar and security guards across New South Wales. I'm so grateful and proud for what this organisation allows me to do. It allows me to give a voice to the 12-year-old girl I was that didn't have a voice and needed a saviour, an organisation and services like ours. But most importantly, What We Were Wearing grew from a place of urgency and necessity, my own lived experience and my experiences of victim blaming. Take a moment with me. Let's take an example. A young 20-year-old girl is fast asleep in their home. Someone breaks into their house and rapes her while she's asleep. She goes to the police station. The building's cold, old, and she's quite scared. A police officer approaches her with a gun in their pocket and says, "Why are you here?" She's even more scared now. Her voice is shattering, but she finds the courage to say, "I was raped." "Are you sure?" said the police officer. She immediately starts second-guessing everything that happened to her, rethinking should she even be here reporting? Will her perpetrator find out and do it again? But she pushes through because she doesn't want what happened to her to happen to anyone else. But what happens next is indescribable and to her worse than the rape itself. Why didn't you say no? If you were in danger, why didn't you push him away, fight him off, say no? And maybe next time, don't wear such revealing clothing to sleep. Unfortunately, statements like these are not a one-of-a-kind situation. Victim survivors hear statements like these every year, every week. This story, this example, that was mine. Look around the room. 1 in 4 people will experience sexual abuse. And I'm sure nearly everyone here either knows a victim or is a victim themselves. But this is worse if you're an Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander person. Us mob experience physical or sexual abuse at disproportionate rates. 3 out of 5 Aboriginal people experience these crimes. But what is victim blaming? Victim blaming occurs when statements or questions focus on the actions or inactions of a victim survivor. It's often suggesting that because of their behaviour, they're wholly or partially responsible for the crime. These harmful mindsets arise from the widespread myths and misconceptions of sexual violence and one's desire to distance themselves from the crime. Victims of domestic, family and sexual violence, we want to feel safe and protected by our first responders. But I have heard so often the traumatic experiences people face when they go to simply report. The effects of victim blaming can be lifelong. Re-traumatisation can prolong or put a stop to a person's healing journey. The side effects can be PTSD, trust issues, eating disorders. But what is worse is victim blaming perpetuates rape culture. A culture where sexual violence is normalised, excused and encouraged. It is within this culture where it's not only about the individual survivor, but about a society that turns a blind eye to violence because it's easier to blame the victim than to confront the uncomfortable truths about power, control, and misogyny. So how do we end victim blaming in a generation? Well, first we need to start with ending rape culture. The harmful myths of false accusations is one to begin with. The truth is, less than 3% of all sexual assault cases are false accusations, with the majority of that 3% being people too scared to continue their cases, not that they lied. If we don't end rape culture and change our attitudes towards victim survivors, over 1 million Australians will experience victim blaming within the next generation. So what do we need to do? 1, we need to mandate trauma-informed training for first responders, a campaign I started called #BelieveMe. It's essential we equipped our first responders with trauma-informed training to lower the risk of harm and re-traumatisation and ensure that all of our experiences with them are always professional and supportive. Trauma-informed training means recognising, understanding and responding to the effects of trauma, ensuring that all our interactions and care are always supportive and don't re-traumatise survivors. Secondly, if you see or hear misogyny or sexism, call it out. Equip yourself with the knowledge and truths around sexual violence, and then use that knowledge to correct the damaging narratives about victim survivors. And thirdly, education is crucial to breaking the cycle of victim blaming. You can do this by reading books, following pages like what we're wearing, or educating yourself and the people around you about boundaries, consent, and the experiences of survivors. By fostering empathy and awareness, we can shift our culture from blaming victims to actually holding our perpetrators accountable. Overall, victim blaming is a profound social issue that inflicts severe harm on victim survivors. It fosters a culture where perpetrators evade accountability. These persistent rape myths worsens this problem, as misconceptions perpetuate victim blaming, obscuring the truths about sexual violence. This environment not only worsens the problem for victims, but it also impedes a society's ability to address and prevent these crimes effectively. By challenging these norms, we can shift the focus from blaming victims to holding perpetrators accountable, ultimately creating a more just and safer society. Take a moment with me. Imagine your sister, mother, or maybe it's you enters the police station. A police officer approaches you with a gun in their pocket and a smile on their face and says, "How can I help you?" You're scared, but you find the courage to say, "I was raped." The police officer says, "I believe you, and I will do whatever I can to help you." Now, imagine a society where this was every victim survivor's experience. If you were to take anything from this, make it be that we must start believing victim survivors and stop blaming them. Instead, let's start questioning our perpetrators about why they perpetrated in the first place. This is not just a dream. This can be a reality, but we must stand together. It requires us to challenge our own biases, to educate ourselves and others around us, and hold each other accountable. Let's create a future where victims are met with compassion, where they're believed, and where they're supported along their healing journeys. Let's create a world where sexual violence is not normalized or encouraged, but instead, it's confronted head on and eradicated. If it didn't matter what my rapist was wearing, then it does not matter what I was wearing. From the ages of 8 to 18, I experienced extreme physical and sexual abuse. And I never thought there'd be a day that I would make it out alive. But here I am today, standing in front of you all and doing this speech. I just wanted to say, if anyone resonates with this, the little 12-year-old girl that experienced this, I believe you. Thank you.